Hello everyone and welcome back to some more gaming news that you might have missed this week. Let's go over the news, starting with the first news being that Xbox made agreements with both Nvidia and Nintendo. So let's go over the Nvidia deal first. The Nvidia deal states that Xbox is gonna be putting Xbox PC games and future Activision titles, if the merger goes through, they're gonna be put into Nvidia's GeForce Now service. GeForce Now service is a cloud gaming service, but you have to buy the games first. It doesn't work like Game Pass where it's a subscription kind of deal. You have to buy the game and then you can play it there. Games from Xbox are gonna start appearing in the service as soon as the next couple of weeks, but to add all the games that they want to add to the service, it's gonna take a while. So expect this to be a long process. With this agreement being signed, Nvidia now fully supports Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. They made the same deal, a similar deal with Nintendo. It doesn't involve its only Call of Duty games. They're going to be bringing Call of Duty back into the Nintendo platforms for 10 years. These two deals are to make sure that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard goes through, because this should please some EU regulators that were having troubles with it. Now, the next news. The next Pokemon Direct has been announced. The Pokemon Company announced that there was going to be a 20-minute presentation on February 27th, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What's going to be in this Direct, we don't really know, but it's gonna be obviously Pokemon related. They might talk about future updates for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and since it just came out, they might announce some DLC for it, maybe. There could be announcements for Pokemon games coming to the Nintendo Online service, because as y'all know, 2 weeks ago, in the Nintendo Direct, they announced Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games coming to the service with no Pokemon in sight. So maybe we get announcements of the Pokemon games coming to that service. And maybe, most likely, like a couple of updates on some other games like Pokemon Go and stuff like that. I don't expect game announcements, but they could do, honestly, whatever they want. The next news involves Shinji Mikami. Shinji Mikami is leaving Tango Gameworks. If you don't know who Shinji Mikami is, he is the creator of Resident Evil. He was the co-founder of Tango Gameworks. He also previously co-founded Platinum Games. Platinum, of course, the company that makes Bayonetta titles. If you don't know who Tango Works is, they've made the Evil Within games. They recently just released Hi-Fi Rush like last month. So it came as a shock, at least to me, that he would leave so soon from a game with such a positive reception. So I'm excited to see where he goes. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Next news. Atomic Heart came out. It's had mixed reception critically, and it's been involved in a lot of controversy. So let's talk about the reception first. Atomic Heart, in case you don't know, it's a sci-fi shooter that's developed by a Russian company called Montfish. This is their first game. There haven't been many problems with how the game runs. Not a lot of people have complained about that. Just a couple of bugs here and there, which isn't really that big of an issue. The game does not include ray tracing at the moment, which is weird because Nvidia has been continuously promoting the game as one of the big games using ray tracing. It will most likely be added later. Most of the complaints come from dialogue. Some people even comparing the dialogue to Forspoken, saying that it's very bad, but other people liking the dialogue. Some people are complaining about the combat, some saying it's too repetitive and a little bit confusing, but other people loving it. And most people that don't like it are comparing it to like a shitty Russian BioShock, which I don't know, sounds kind of interesting. The game came out for everything except the Nintendo Switch, of course. Now, let's talk about the controversy. The controversy around this game revolves around it being made by a Russian company. People are claiming that with the sales of this game, Russia is gonna benefit. Even the country of Ukraine added to this controversy because they sent a letter asking Microsoft, Sony, and Valve to ban the game in Ukraine, and they're also strongly suggesting to limit the distribution of the game in other countries. They're citing the toxicity of the game because of the Russian imagery, the potential data collection from users, and the profits of the game, as I said, will likely help keep funding the war. A lot of people have also complained that the developers Monfish have not condemned Putin and the war, but that makes so much sense. Of course they haven't done that. If they do that, they're gonna start falling out of Windows for some reason. If you're planning on playing the game, make sure to take all of this into account. Next news. Elden Ring has sold over 20 million copies. This is great because it shows that single player games can still be successful. It has been shown with a lot of PlayStation titles, especially God of War, Spider-Man, Uncharted, that they can be successful, but now this shows that third-party titles can also be very successful, and you don't need DLC and stuff like that to sell people into a game. So just as a comparison, God of War Ragnarok sold 10 million copies. I know that doesn't sound like a lot compared to Elden Ring's 20 million, but you have to keep in mind that God of War is a PlayStation exclusive for now, and Elden Ring came out in Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, so there were more outlets for you to buy the game. So that's some good news for Elden Ring and single player games in general. But now let's go to some bad news regarding game preservation with Angry Birds, because Rovio is delisting the Angry Birds game. There's a lot of Angry Birds games, but if you remember, there was the first Angry Birds game, which has been renamed to Classic Angry Birds, but the game will be removed from Google Play Store and it will be renamed to Red's First Flight on the App Store. But why would Rovio do this? They are doing this because the game is too successful. All of the other Rovio games are free to play. This one, Classic Angry Birds, costs $1. So as you can guess, the games that are free have a lot of microtransactions, while Angry Birds Classic does not. So a lot of people are buying Classic Angry Birds instead of going for the other ones because of the microtransactions, which leads to Rovio not making a lot of money. This is a major blow to game preservation, and it's just a shitty move, honestly. I don't believe it has been delisted yet, so you could still buy it. But now let's go to some other news regarding Call of Duty. So there are new Call of Duty rumors. They reported in February last year that there was going to be no Call of Duty this year. They were going to skip it for the first time. But apparently they were working on an expansion for Modern Warfare 2, and they decided that it will now be its own standalone title. It's going to be a continuation of Modern Warfare 2, but it's not going to be called Modern Warfare 3. The game will supposedly carry over the maps and mobs from Modern Warfare 2, and it will be developed by Sledgehammer. Now, this sudden switch into deciding not to skip the yearly release makes a lot of sense, because Modern Warfare 2, which released last year, was the biggest launch in the series history. So of course they want to keep the ball rolling. But we'll see, because this right now is just a rumor. It's not confirmed yet. But now we can go into the next news, which involves a horror production called Blumhouse. Blumhouse Production has launched a gaming division. Now, if you don't know who Blumhouse are, they are a horror movie production company. They make horror movies with low budgets, but they're very good horror movies. And since their budgets are low, the profits are very high. This new gaming division is called Blumhouse Games, and it will be working as a publisher for indie horror games with a budget under 10 million. So they're using a similar strategy to the movies. So far, nothing has been announced. This was just like a, hey, this is gonna happen. Get ready. It's gonna be interesting to see if their strategy of low budget games is gonna pay out, but hopefully they make it, because I love horror games. Now it's time to go over a lot of news, because we're gonna be talking about the state of play, everything shown at the state of play, starting with the PSVR 2 games they showed at the beginning, starting with Foglands. Now the Foglands is gonna be a shooter game set in a weird type of western place. It has a weird art style, as you can tell with the guy holding the cards, and it seems to be just a regular shooting game. I didn't see any specific mechanics that seemed super interesting about it. The game will also come out to Oculus, so it's not gonna be a PSVR 2 exclusive. Next game was Green Hell VR. Green Hell VR is a game that's already out, but now it's just gonna be ported to the PSVR 2. That's pretty much it. Next game was Synapse, or Synapse, I don't know how you call it. It's another shooting, but this one looked a little bit more interesting than the Foglands because of the way it uses colors. As you can see by the picture, it's black and white except for the rectangle and the hand of the guy. The game is gonna be the same way. It's gonna have color effects, but the game is mostly black and white, and it looks really cool in motion. I'm excited to see if there are interesting game mechanics, apart from just the art style. The next game was Journey to Foundation. Journey to Foundation is gonna be another shooter, but it's gonna be based in the works by Isaac Asimov, who was a very popular author from the 1900s. It's gonna be a shooter in space. It's definitely gonna be better if you're a fan of Isaac Asimov's works. And the last PSVR 2 game that they focused on was Before Your Eyes. Before Your Eyes is an indie game that actually released in 2021. In this game, you play as a character that just died and is reliving their memories. Now, this one is really cool, and this one honestly is the one that piqued my interest the most. The headset tracks where you look and when you blink. So every time that you blink, the scene changes in the game. So you have to keep your eyes open if you want to keep looking at what's happening. And the second you blink, the scene changes. But those were all the PSVR 2 games. The next game they showed was a trailer for Destiny 2 Lightfall. This is just an expansion that's gonna This is just an expansion for Destiny 2 that's coming out next week. Next game they talked about was Tchia. If you've been paying attention to all if you've been paying attention to a lot of PlayStation presentations, this is a game that has been shown a lot. It's an indie open world game with some similar mechanics to Cappy from Mario Odyssey, where you can control different animals. It's coming out March 21st, and they're doing something very interesting. They're fighting against Game Pass using a similar strategy. This game is gonna be available to you if you have PS Plus Extra day one. You're not gonna have to pay anything more. The next game they talked about was Humanity. It's a game made by the people that made Tetris Effect Connected. It's gonna be a puzzle game in which you are a dog that leads people to their destination. Now this game is gonna be coming out for the PS4 and the PS5, and it's gonna have PSVR and PSVR 2 support, which you love to see. PSVR having some love, not being left behind by PSVR 2. And there's currently a demo out now. It's gonna be out for a limited time. The next game they talked about was Goodbye Volcano High. This is another game that has been shown a lot. It's a visual novel with dinosaurs in high school that are in a band. It's a visual novel, so that's kind of like either you like visual novels or you hate visual novels. But it does have some interesting rhythm game mechanics. The next game they talked about was Naruto x Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections. Now, this is not a collection. This is a new game that's based on the previous games. It's gonna have the gameplay from the fourth one. It's gonna have the story from all of the games. It might miss some parts of the story, but not like very important ones. It's gonna have all the characters from all of the games plus new ones, and it's gonna be 60 frames per second on PS5 since the previous games have been locked to 30 frames per second. Next was Baldur's Gate 3. This is an RPG game. It's a successor to Baldur's Gate 2 and Divinity Original Sin. I believe this is a game that's set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe, so we'll see how it goes with the recent controversies surrounding Dungeons and Dragons. But if you like role-playing games, this is definitely gonna be one to look out for. Currently not in development for Xbox. Right now it's only for PC and PlayStation. Next, they showed more about Wayfinder, which is an online action RPG. It's going to be a free-to-play game. It's also going to be a live service game, so we're going to see how that goes. As y'all know, a lot of live service games have been dying recently. Let's hope this one meets a different fate. There's going to be an early access that's going to start in May, so you can go ahead and try that out in May. They talked about Street Fighter 6. They showed 2 returning characters, those being Zangief and Cammy, and they announced a new character called Lily. Hopefully the Street Fighter fans like the game when it comes out. The final trailer they showed before the big showcase was Resident Evil 4 Remake. It looks really good, and there's gonna be a demo coming soon. That's pretty much all I can say about it. And then the presentation ended with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. They showed some gameplay of the game. This is of course from Rocksteady. It takes place in the Arkham games universe. The game looks to have very good movement. But apart from good movement, I don't see it looked pretty generic for me, honestly. It's a looter shooter type of game, so the shooting looks pretty generic. The game is gonna have a battle pass. which a lot of people are not a fan of. It's gonna be only cosmetics, but still, knowing that a Rocksteady game has a battle pass is kind of leaving a bad taste in people's mouths. Now, this is a single player and a co-op game. You can play with up to 4 people, which seems to be the best way to play the game. It's gonna be releasing May 26th. And after the presentation, they announced quietly, of course, that you will have to be always online when playing, even when playing single player, which is so fucking stupid. But hopefully there's a bit of backlash towards that function and they maybe take it out, but we'll see. That's gonna be everything for today. Thank y'all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment on anything that piqued your interest. What do you like? What don't you like about the games that have been announced? About things like Robio, what they're doing, the Microsoft deals, all of that. If you want to talk about the news that I'm talking about, make sure to come watch it live so that I can answer questions in real time. And I'll see y'all next week.